Hello, everyone. Are you tired of spending so many hours editing your photos and feeling like you're totally drowning in post production? I know I do. At a certain point during the season, I'm feeling completely overwhelmed with my editing. Never fails every year, even though I have workflows in place. But I couldn't imagine what it felt like if I didn't have a workflow in place and a workflow that works, right? There are many different ones out there, and you might think what the one that you use is the best. Maybe you're struggling to find a workflow that actually saves you time and money, and you're not alone. So, again, in this week's Tuesday Talks, we are going to be wrapping up this 4-part series all about workflows. This final session will cover everything from having a post-production workflow and why it's so crucial to how to create one, how to implement, the tools I personally use to simplify my process, and how to keep your clients in the loop, which is also just as important, so they feel secure and safe and listened to and aren't worried and aren't bothering you. I'll also share a ton of practical tips and actionable items, like I always like to do, and how you can implement these little editing tools. Even if you're not ready to do the entire workflow right now, maybe just a few of the steps here and there will help your current workflow be a little more seamless. I'm Andreka from Andreka Photography and Coaching, here again to help you with all things business. It's not always all about the photos. So today, when it comes to this workflow idea towards editing and post-production, we're going to have 5 different sections. We're going to talk about why. Why is a post-production workflow so essential? 2, the tools you need to really succeed and make it work. 3, those common mistakes that so many people are going to make and how to avoid them before it's too late. How to create that great client-friendly workflow that people love. And then, of course, the big one, the step-by-step breakdown of how editing workflow works from camera to client. So number 1, the whys. Why is a post-production workflow so essential? 1, it's going to ensure consistency in your editing style and your quality. Why is this important? Because your consistency is key to building your brand and meeting client expectations. And make sure that the images you show on your social media and your website are exactly the same type of images you will be delivering. Super duper fancy editing or presets or whatever on your social media and on your website, but then ultimately when the client gets their pictures back in their gallery, it doesn't look like that. They ain't gonna be very happy. So how do you do this? Define those editing preferences and create those presets in your Lightroom to ensure that you have that uniformity around your galleries, right? Figure out your style, figure out your brand, use this and only show what you wanna sell. Name your presets clearly to make them easy to identify within your program. Saves you time. Obviously, when you have a great editing workflow, it's going to save you time. It's going to free up hours for other tasks, whether this time is spent photographing more, which means you can build your business, which means you can scale. This is where scaling and scalability comes in with your photography business. If you are doing an editing and pushing a button on every single one of your images, you're not out making more money, right? Also, it also frees up time for your own life, right? Your own personal life as well. So when it comes down to it, how you would implement this. We're going to talk more about this, but use programs like Aftershoot. It's an AI editing software that does culling and editing, and it's super easy and super great. It reduces stress and prevents burnout, which ultimately that's what the business and understanding business in your photography career is really all about. You want to have this be your job in your career. So you want to reduce the stress and prevent the burnout, and outsourcing your editing and having a great workflow for your editing is going to do it, because the biggest moment where stress and burnout, specifically burnout, occurs is the editing. You're done shooting. You're done having the quote unquote fun part. Even for those people who love editing, and I know there's a few of you out there, you've got to admit that there's moments where you're like, I can't be staring at the same face over and over and over again. It improves client satisfaction and builds that trust, right? Clients want to feel confident that their images are going to be handled professionally and securely. And when you build into your workflow communication and that consistency that your style matches what people are seeing online, it's going to build that client satisfaction and that trust, which is going to help you build your business. And then, of course, the big one, it's going to increase profitability by really maximizing efficiency, right? The more you're efficient, the more you can book more clients. And you might think, I don't have a big enough business to invest in outsource editing, using this different software program, using this online gallery. But in the end, that small investment in the front is going to be a big return on investment. That's where the term ROI comes in, right? invest a little bit in the front, and it's going to multiply over time and build your business and really increase your profitability overall. So now let's talk about those tools. My favorite in all of them is Aftershoot. I love it. I've been using Aftershoot for several years. They're a company that is AI built, and they first started off with just culling, and now they're doing culling and editing, and it's amazing. So what this is going to do is going to speed up everything you're doing. You upload all your images in, it automatically culls out by closed eyes, blurry images, duplicates, which even if it's not exactly perfect right away, it'll learn. But also you can easily sort out and be like, okay, well, this is blurry, but it's intentional blur. And you know that to look for that. So just in general, when you're shooting thousands of photos, it's a lot easier to narrow it down to just a few hundred to then sort through. And then on top of that, after you've done the cull, it'll go through and do an edit. And it can be your own template that you put in that it fixes and creates for you based on your style. Or it can be some of their own versions and their own styles within the program that you can either purchase or it comes for you with certain memberships. I have codes for this. I'll throw it in the chats later. But you always want to use a program that's going to help you cull. Cull meaning select, make your selects. People use different languages for that. Also, obviously, Lightroom. Lightroom is going to be a great program to obviously use as well. And I use Aftershoot as well as Lightroom because Lightroom to me is you're going to get more fine tune in there. And once I pull everything through Aftershoot, I then can put it through Lightroom and check double things, which we'll talk a little bit more later. Another program I definitely love, which isn't so much a program but a business, Photographer's Edit. I used Photographer's Edit literally 15 years. And the only reason I don't use them so much anymore is because now I can use Aftershoot and AI. That said, I will love Photographer's Edit for outsourcing if it's something I can't handle, if it's a really big project. If I have more exact things that need to be done, they have specific custom editing that they can do for each individual images. If you have a client who has something big that they want to change, like changing heads or putting in new people or things like that, they're great for that. So is retouch.com. Retouch.com is great for retouching. They're going to do a more base price and it's going to save time on those intricate details. So Photographer's Edit and retouch.com are really great for those intricate details that you don't want to deal with or that you don't maybe have the skill to make it really perfect. And they're a great price and they work really well with professional photographers. And then of course, having a CRM is super important, and those automation tools that are going to keep those clients informed. The online gallery for the delivery, this is also really important because you need to know how to deliver, right? And then also you want to have everything, as we've talked a few times, those automated tools like Dubsado and Honeybook and ShootQ that are going to keep the communication lines open and you can keep track of everything there. All right, so now number 3, common mistakes and how to avoid them. Number 1, failing to communicate timelines with your clients. Literally build this into your workflows, because how often is a client 3 days after a wedding go, oh my gosh, where are my photos? And you all of a sudden feel the pressure. But if you tell them at the wedding, just so you know, it's going to be about a month, it's going to be about 2 months, it's going to be about 6 months, it's going to be a year, whatever it's going to be, as long as you're telling them, that's what's important. So failing to tell this, I cannot tell you how many friends will come to me and say, oh my gosh, this photographer hasn't delivered these images. I can't believe that. Again, leverage those expectations, right? Set clear delivery timelines during your booking, and this will provide, and then also provide progress. What I tend to do, and again, people do this differently, is I'll send a sneak peek, but I don't send a sneak peek until a few weeks after the wedding or even later, right? Depending on where I am. It's almost like your pictures are going to be done. I send them a few pictures. I don't instantly the day after send them a ton, because sometimes they're going to want more sooner. And you've already kind of like gave the gift when they weren't asking for the gift, if that makes sense, right? But again, if this is part of your process, explain, hey, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to give you a big sneak peek right after the wedding, and then you're probably not going to get anything from me for several months, but don't worry, yours will be there and it'll be for sure delivered by this time. So you have something to share with all your family and order your thank you cards. Saying something like that, right? Another huge mistake people do trying to do everything manually. You do not want to relinquish the control of the editing because no one can do it as well as you can. I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Most of the time, people can do it as well as you. And honestly, they might be able to actually do it better. Yes, you don't want to hear it, but people might be able to actually do your style better than you. Believe me, I know. I'm the first to admit it. I know someone with better editing skills or AI computer can fix that lighting situation where I just made a muck of it all. So don't try to do everything manually. It saves you time, saves you stress, saves you from burnout. It's ultimately going to save you money because you can then book more and make more, right? Here's a big one, but I hope none of you do this. Ignoring to back things up. Back up everything. Don't just back up also your images, but back up all your processes along the way. You want to not only back up your cards, but you want to back up your Lightroom files and your after shoot albums. So that way, if something happens along the steps, you don't have to go back to square one, right? One useful tip that people tend to do is the whole 3-2-1 rule, right? 3 copies of your file on 2 different types of storage units and 1 stored offsite, whether that's in the cloud or somewhere else, right? So you've got the cloud, you've got a hard drive, and then you've got something in the world. Spending too much time on those small details. There's a couple really funny photographers that are on Instagram who will sit there and like you watch them go, like the dog's head moves like this. And you stress which is the right one. Or I know I'm guilty of this, trying to figure out that color balance. It's a little too green. It's a little too red. It's a little too green. Most likely your client's not going to notice it, right? Over editing can eat up all of your time and then often lead to those stressing. None of this is really going to be noticed by your clients, right? So focus on enhancing key images for the portfolio and then delivering those consistent galleries from there. Use things like ReTouchUp for those detailed fixes, or Photographers Edit for those little things that are driving you crazy that you can't seem to fix. Let the professional do it. You get in and focus on those big galleries and images to get the consistent look. And again, don't worry about if the chin is here and the chin is here and the chin is here. I'm totally guilty of it. I think we all are. But as long as you're aware of it, you can move past it. And then also forgetting your workflow, right? Not documenting your workflow, and this will lead to you being inconsistent, right? So without a documented process, you're going to risk inconsistencies that are going to, again, confuse the clients, slow you down, lead to more stress. You need to write down your workflow step by step by step, create templates and guides for each stage so that you know, and this goes for all the workflows we've talked about this month. So you remember it, right? Like I know for me sometimes when it's the off season, or, my brain works kind of different 6 months a year than it does the other 6 months a year. So I might be in a process of doing things all the time that I don't have to think about it. But then if I leave it for 6 months and I come back, I go, wait, where did I do that again? All right, how to create that client-friendly workflow. So now we're talking about your post-production editing workflow, which you might think is, again, all about you and your computer alone in the dark going through every image. But your client is important to think about here as well. So number 1, set those expectations at the booking, right? Clients appreciate transparency more than anything else. It's better to be straightforward than avoiding and not telling them about it, right? You need to know and make sure that they are aware of the post-production process and the delivery timelines. Include a detailed timeline in your actual contract or your welcome guide, right? Make a cute little infographic and put that into your welcome email when you first send them out. And by the way, you can now take this timeline and think about all the workflows we've talked about this month, and those can be your little check marks in your timeline, from the questionnaire that you sent before the wedding to the thank you for booking to here's where your images are going to be delivered. Provide timeline updates, right? Regularly update your clients. What I tend to do actually, which sounds a little unorthodox, is the day or 2 or 3 after the wedding, instead of sending a sneak peek, the couples just want to know the photos are in the can. They just want to know they're safe. So what I tend to do is I'll send a thank you. I was so happy to be at your wedding. And then I'll take a screenshot of an unedited photo from my computer that's clearly not perfect. And I'll say, hey, your editing is going to be blah, 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 blah. But I wanted you to just know everything's looking great. and I'll send them and said, just so you know, this is an unedited raw image of a screenshot, but I just wanted to show you that even this looks amazing, right? And this is going to make them go, okay, this is great. We are good. We got the photos, right? So again, use those timeline updates along the way to let people know. And then of course, too, you want to use simple language in explaining your process, right? Most clients really won't understand all the technical jargon. They might roughly get an idea of what this means, but they might be like, oh, just give me the raw, because raw to them might mean unedited. And they'll say, I can take that. That's not exactly what raw means, as you know, right? So use easy language, right? Use the explanation, because simple explanations are also going to build that trust. Break down your workflow into easy to understand steps so that you then know this is where this step is, and this is the easy jargon for it, right? Offer a short FAQ, right? About your post-production. If someone's like wondering what it looked like, make a cute little infographic again with like your post-production and all the steps, all the effort and time you're putting into their editing. It's also kind of fun to offer that behind the scenes look in order to build trust, right? Showing your work builds that client's confidence and helps them really appreciate the effort you're putting behind all of these photos. So share sneak peeks or short videos on social media of you like editing their gallery and tag them in it. Oh my, I do this all the time. And again, it makes them feel at ease that you have not forgotten about them. You still care about them, even though the day's over, and that their pictures are in good hands, right? So this is also going to offer you, the more you do these kind things to your client, the more leeway they're going to give you with time. So let's say for some reason something comes up. For example, for me, this past year, those 2 hurricanes hit Florida. Even though I wasn't in Florida, I was dealing with it because I have a home in Florida. So I was getting the phone calls and helping my mom. It really put me behind. So I sent an email out right away and said, hey, I realize that I owe a few of you images. Things are going to be about 2 weeks late. I hope you can understand. Again, I sent this out a month before things were due, so people were aware that it might be late. Sometimes they weren't late, but at least they knew what to be expected. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to set these expectations, you have to meet these expectations. It's very bad form to say, I'm going to deliver in a week. Stick to your word. Be honest and be impeccable with your word. And again, also, you always want to share those delivery updates with a little personal touch, right? Like clients love feeling that they're really part of the process and the gallery is really a prioritized. So sending a personalized email with the delivery update and a preview of their gallery, including thank you messages and reminders about how to order. I also offer a discount for any future portrait sessions because again, this is going to roll that wedding photography couple into a portrait couple, and it draws their awareness that you also do portraits, if it is you do portraits. So now, the final big thing we're talking about, the real thing that you probably waited this whole video to want to talk and hear about, the actual step-by-step breakdown of how I do my editing and what my editing workflow is from the camera to the client. Obviously, step 1, back up your photos, right? Immediately after the event, protecting your images from any accidental loss is going to be so important. So again, using 3 steps like we talked about earlier, 3 different places. Always keep everything on one card. When I photograph, when I shoot, I have 2 cards in my camera. I double them back on both the back. I delete one card, but not until it's already been downloaded somewhere else 3 times. I still keep one of the original cards up until I either deliver the images and hear back from the client, or I deliver the images and it's been, 2 months since I've delivered them. Or I look on their online gallery and I see they viewed it. Right? And a time has gone by, because you never know when someone's going to come by even after you deliver and say, you know what, where's this one photo? So always keep. Step 2, after you have everything backed up, it's what we talked about, making the selects, doing the culls, and I use Aftershoot for that. So I take my hard drive, I upload it into Aftershoot, I set the parameters, and I let it go. Aftershoot can cull thousands and thousands of images in a matter of minutes. This is going to really also eliminate those unnecessary images so that when you go back through and do your little more fine-tuned select, you don't have to look at them. But if you need to, they're still there, right? If you want to know more about Aftershoot, please DM me, let me know. I'm more than happy to talk more about it. And then we're back to step 3. Still Aftershoot. This is where the next step is you're going to look at the editing and you're going to choose either your own personal profile style profile that you've used with them over time. They look and they take all of your images that you've been made that you like, that are your favorite style, and they create a style profile for you. And by the way, again, that customer service is amazing. When I was trying to do this, they got in there and really helped me do it when I had questions. They were incredibly helpful. They got on a call and it's been great. They have their own personal style profiles that you can choose: black and white, color, different shades, dark and moody, light and airy, you name it. And then you can actually personally go in and tweak those to match your styled version of them. So again, the whole idea of these bulk editing AIs and taking away your control, you are still 100% in control of it all. You can still go through there and make something a little less saturated, a little more saturated. It shows my age and how old I've been in the business. The actions from Photoshop, which were kind of like presets before presets existed. Now, this is another beautiful thing. After Shoot in Lightroom, next step, work really well together. They are symbiotic perfectly so that from After Shoot, your images can go shoop straight into Lightroom and you can look at them. You can see where the settings are. You can adjust as you need to. And then you can go back into After Shoot and go, oh, you know what? I found that this did this, and you can make it work. So some of the images, like portraits or significant moments, might need a little bit more detailed adjustment. And this is where Lightroom can come in, right? And then obviously if you really want to go from Lightroom to Photoshop to really get fine tune, you can do that. Or you can send it off to Retouch or Photographer's Edit, which is a really awesome programs, like I said. The export and the organizing of the final gallery. Now it's time to really put them into the well-organized, polished gallery for your online gallery for your clients to see. Now, I use Shootproof. I love Shootproof. And it's so important to deliver your images on an online gallery. Most photographers are doing this today, but I know not all of them are. And it's going to save you time. It's going to give the customer that amazing client experience, and it's going to potentially also make you more income without you having to work for it because they can order prints so easily. So a well-organized, polished gallery is key. You want to make sure that you organize it in a very easy way. You don't want to just upload 1,000 images. You want to break it down into the categories of the day, kind of like how you would break down an album book, right? You've got one partner getting ready, the next partner getting ready, maybe a first look, ceremony, and break it all down so then when they look at it, and I also am a big fan of putting a favorites folder in there too, because then they break it down and they can see it and they're not overwhelmed. So then finally, we're going to talk about delivering the gallery, right? So now it's time to deliver the gallery with your personal note and the online. Shootproof is great. There's other ones out there, Pixieset, PicTime, tons out there. I'll leave a code for Shootproof down in the comments as well. Make sure that you also then, after you deliver the gallery, notify clients, follow up, always follow up, because they might, and I definitely have had this happen, a client will say, why haven't we gotten our pictures? And I'll think, I delivered them 2 weeks ago. But you never know with the spam. Notify the clients, include very clear instructions on how to use the gallery, even offer a potential way of doing Zoom. There are a whole other way of doing it with in-person sales, and that is a whole different video, really. That is where you would not deliver the gallery and instead you would do a live Zoom release and show it together. In-person sales is another way to do it, which again, totally successful method. It's just something else that we'll cover at a different time. Now, in the world of editing, let's talk about client expectations. In the world of editing these days, there is a different level of expectations because there's so many face tuning and filters and all the things that people are putting on themselves. What you put on your site is what you deliver. And setting client expectations, explain the type of editing that is included with your package. If there is additional edits, put it in your contract. If additional edits are going, because some clients will think automatically, well, aren't they going to just automatically smooth my skin or take away tan lines? They might think it's just a super easy thing to fix, but you know it's not. Explain. I never say no. I just offer it as an addition. So following all this, there's always that option to offer those additional edits, whether you want to offer this right away or whether you want to wait and see if they come back or offer it a little bit later. There's different times in which you can say, hey, you know what, just so you know, if you want something a little bit more, this is potential, but I actually suggest not mentioning it unless they mention it, because if they're happy with their images, you're drawing attention to something that they might not have ever noticed. This is again why prior to everything, it's the good time to mention it. When they're booking you, in the contract, during the wedding, oftentimes people say you can just Photoshop that, or now you can just AI that. It's a good time to mention, oh, I can totally do that. Just so you know, though, I'm not really that great at Photoshop. It's not my skill set. I'd rather be out here taking photos. And that's when you can say, but I have this amazing team of editors that I work with and I've handpicked and blah, 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 blah. Make it sound really good and say, so we can do it though. It just might be an extra charge or something a little extra, right? Drop those little hints here and there. Never, ever, ever, ever forget your vendors. This might be almost more important than anything else, because this is really going to prove to longevity of your business and growing your business, is always deliver photos to the vendors to build those relationships. Sharing those photos with those vendors strengthens the relationships, increases referrals, enhances your visibility and your collaborations. And vendors love to have all those professional photos, and they sometimes feel bad asking. And also, if you just have it into your workflow, like for me, it's the last step of my workflow. Create a separate folder within the gallery for vendors. Yeah, on ShootProof, you can actually offer vendor galleries specifically. I send them all with the very same code. Like, it makes things very easy. And then they're also going to have a really good feeling towards you. So then they're going to remember you. Whenever they use their photos online, again, brand recognition. So this isn't just about collaboration and building relationships and referrals. It's about brand recognition. So they're sitting there somewhere a year later going, that photographer, oh yeah, I just posted one of her pictures. They're going to remember you a little bit more. So let's talk about a few different takeaways from today's lessons. We talked about the importance of having that streamlined post-production workflow. We talked about the different tools you can use. We talked about the best practices to keep those clients super happy, informed, and feeling really good and safe about their photos. And then we talked about the right workflow and exactly how to do it to save you time and also enhances your client experiences to build that trust. So ultimately, this is going to wrap up that 4-part series on all the workflows. I'm so glad you were able to join me on all this. So I hope you guys all have a great day, a great evening, wherever you are in the world, and go back and check out all the other videos on the workflows. Thanks, friends.